All right, everybody, welcome to the Service MVP podcast. My name is Joe Crisara, America's service coach. We have with us my great friend, Mr. Anthony Mound from Trust One Services in Quincy, Massachusetts. Anthony, welcome to the meeting here today. I really appreciate you being here.
Hey, Joe, thanks for having me.
Now, the reason I brought him on, I just happened to be in Boston last week. And of course, it was unplanned, but I invited him to kind of drop by our seminar because Anthony and I have a special brotherhood where I can start a sentence and it looks like he could finish my sentences the way exactly the way I would do them. And I was like, wow, this guy's really on point. When I heard him talk, he was showing off about using the Uncle Joeisms and trying to close me, and he wasn't even selling me anything. So we went to dinner and we had a great time. And Anthony, thanks for all your time and things. Let's start with you. Let's start with focusing on about yourself and your background, a little bit how you got to where you're at right now. Tell us a little bit of the history first.
Yeah, so I used to visit Massachusetts, originally from upstate New York. My dad moved down here when I was a kid, so I used to come down and help him with plumbing. Didn't really know what I wanted to do, and then I started working with my hands, and then I found out that it's exactly what I love to do. And I started out with my apprenticeship working for a few different companies, and I really, really enjoyed it. And then I come to realize I wasn't like happy. And then I just kept moving from company to company. It was like a few years here, a few years there, kept moving on, learned all different aspects of plumbing and HVAC. And then my friend said to me one day, he's like, "Hey, Anthony, you'll never be happy until you start your own business." And I was like, "Oh, really?" So the last straw was I was in the union, and then I kind of just like quit one day, and I was like, what's a better time to start my own business? And then I kind of started from scratch. Didn't know what I was doing, just knew like what I learned from the companies I worked for. And I'm like, well, I like this much better, but there's got to be more to this. So I started like learning more, and then going on Facebook groups and trying to learn different things. And here I am now.
Great. But obviously, it was definitely it can be frustrating to get stuck in that one place, but you broke through. You went started out as a startup, and in a few short years you multiplied your growth times 10, which is pretty impressive. A lot of people who run a business for 50 years never get to the level you're at in that multiple $1 million level that was that 10 times growth. So today's going to be about what are 3 things that you would give advice to other people who are maybe stuck and they need to break out of that to be able to achieve that 10 times growth. And I assume that where you're at now, if we talk 2.5 years later, it might be 10 times growth from here too. So we can keep applying those same lessons. Maybe 100 million. If you fall short, it might be 90 million. Who knows? But the bottom line is that I have a lot of faith in you, and we could do a little role play too later, just show off everybody.
Yeah, we could.
Good. Well, I have to do that for sure. So let's leave a little time for that. But go ahead, Anthony. What's the first key thing that you think is important for people to kind of break through to get out of their mindset there? Go ahead and tell me about that.
So I can't just pick 3, but I'll combine kind of 2 into 1. Mindset. Mindset's a huge thing. Always staying positive, even when things aren't positive. Because if your head gets a mess, then everything's going to become a mess. It's kind of manifestation. You just manifest what you want. If you take a notebook and write down every single day what you want, eventually it will become true because you'll be changing your mindset. And then taking action. Every piece of information I get, I just do it. If just don't think about the consequences, because it costs you more to take action and make a mistake than it does to not take action at all. So that would be the first thing for me, is just having a good mindset, always being positive.
So the thing that costs you more, you're saying, is staying stationary and not taking a chance to leap forward and make that bold move, knowing that there's a chance that it could succeed, and knowing there's a chance that it could. I think that's the point most people get stuck. Like, is it going to work or not work? And then like, I'm just going to hold off for a while and procrastinate, right? Obviously, it sounds like procrastination is the opposite of what you believe in. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, I procrastinate about nothing. I just do it and then think about it afterwards.
And if it works, you keep it. And if it doesn't work, you move on. It sounds like. All All right. How many things do you think you've tried but didn't work out? And how do you deal with that when you say, okay, that's not going to work out for me? I'm gonna sidestep that or whatnot type of thing. How do you keep your mental clarity or your mental positive attitude when you do make the decision that didn't work out the way you'd like to see it?
So those things go two hand in hand, positive mindset and taking action, right? So when I take action and I make a mistake, I just learn from it and keep positive. Okay, yeah, I made a mistake here, but there's another side to this. There is something that will work. And to answer your question, I've made way more mistakes doing things that I've chosen that were not the right decision than I have being successful. But the difference is how quick you can change from that one thing to the thing that actually works. And the way to track that is KPIs. It's all in data. If you track it, everything you do, you track it. Does it work? Did you give enough time to track it? And that's how you pivot to things that work and don't work.
Got it. Got it. And so if you said you got 10 times growth, you'd also have to say you've had 10 times of things that you tried until you find one that may work. Is that sound fair? And
Right.
sometimes you have to try something 10 times until you find the thing that gets a foothold for you. Maybe hopefully it'll be easier than 10 times, but you're willing to give it a try 10 times. Even if you failed 9, you're still gonna try that 10th time because you know there's a way to do it. You just haven't figured it yet, you're saying, right?
Yeah, I was like the type of kid that would, people would start with training wheels. I just hopped on the bike with no training wheels. If I I fell 8 times and I got up to the 9th time, then I succeeded, right? So, but I learned in the
Yeah,
meantime.
the bike can be ridden. It's just a matter I gotta stop skinning my knees and falling on the ground.
Right. I might get hit
That's
by a car
interesting.
once or twice, but no.
Well, we all do, especially those park cars are the toughest one to run
Right.
into.
Absolutely.
But what's the second thing? Go ahead and give us the second item that you think is that's something that's giving a chance and even making mistakes. Is I'm going to jump back on the horse and try it again. Be positive. I know horse can be ridden, so we can do that. What's the second thing you think, Anthony?
Leadership. I when I first started, I didn't have experience with having people that worked for me. So the way that I spoke to people wasn't the best way. And I've noticed from trial and error and mistakes that I've made in the past that, you have to really understand where someone's coming from and try to do things that motivate them and hold them accountable and just make yourself a better leader every single day. And that there's no end to that leadership. You hit a point and you think that you're a good leader. There's always another portion of that leadership that you can improve on. People
What,
need someone.
what kind of tips can you give us on things that you can tell if I can see if somebody is a good leader or not a good leader? What would you say a few things that you kind of set in yourself? You must have to have a kind of a self-talk because I think we all are like, man, I got to get better at, the word leadership is a vague word, but specifically there's things that create a better leader. Can you give us a little drill down on that a little bit more? Just tell us what you think of some advice you can give us there.
When you have a situation, don't just react about it. Take a second to think about it. If you have to walk away because you're frustrated and you're putting emotions into it, walk away, cool yourself down, and come to the situation with a level mind and a clear mind. Because that way you can ask questions and you can understand where the person is coming from to understand how they made that mistake. And you can take some personal accountability for that action and how it got to that point.
So a leader takes accountability for themselves to say, I enabled this situation. That's how you can see some people have I call leadership skills, which are the first skill is to say, take the accountability. Secondly, it's like, take a step back and don't let anger run the day. Let's make sure that we make a decision based on the facts, not just based on how it made me feel when this stuff happened. Those are two good tips right there, Anthony. Well, that's really good. So leadership to you means responsibility and giving yourself a time to think, that space to think about things instead of reacting to respond to different situations.
Yep, exactly.
Have you changed in that regard? Tell us how was that a strength or weakness your whole life, or is it something you had to kind of try on that new behavior, or is that a behavior you've always had?
It's a little bit of both. I would say with the reaction type, that was something I had to work on over time. Like I had to work on when someone came to me with a problem, reacting in a rational way instead of an irrational way. But the other points I've been pretty good with. I've always been like wanting to take charge and manage things, and that's how that part of the leadership I've always been up and above on that. but the reacting to situations is one thing I really had to come a long way with.
Well, Anthony, what's a third one more element? Then we can have some fun. Actually, I do want to ask about a little bit about your story too, as you're growing up, if you don't mind, if I can get a little of that, because that was pretty amazing too. But what's a third element you could give advice about to kind of break through and get that 10 times growth?
Getting a good sales process, like Uncle Joe here. Those two things, and tracking it, right? Because you can sell it, and having KPIs and managing those KPIs along with the sales process. Really writing it down, defining it, and being able to teach it. Because you can't, in my opinion, you can't scale without a sales process to teach to others how to, offer great customer service and give people great options and have a follow-up process for that.
So the mindset, the leadership, and then a sales process. Because I think it's a good way of putting it. The process is worthless unless you have somebody who can lead the process and train it the proper way, and also somebody who's got the mindset that, hey, even if I'm going to hit some barriers when I do this process, I'm going to be willing to fight through these barriers and work our way through it. So those things all kind of go together in harmony together, if I say that yourself. And and I think at the end of it, what comes out is culture, right? We're the culture that people start seeing possibilities in your company. Tell me, what's the culture like at Trust One now, compared to what it was when you first started out, or when you had back in 2021, you started this. Within 2021 to middle of 2023, we've had achieving the 10 times growth here. Tell us a little bit about some of those things that were barriers that got in your way that you had to kind of move through.
Yeah, I think I might have reacted, and there's people that don't work here now that could have worked here, but I overreacted and might have let them go because they didn't. I mean, they might not have deserved that, or I just didn't understand where they're coming from, or I didn't give them the proper training they needed to be successful. Those are some things that have got me to where I am now. So, now I try to understand where everyone's coming from. I try to understand that people have issues and that they need training and they don't think the same way that I do, and that you have to, train everybody. You're dealing with different personalities all the time, and you have to adapt to that all the time. Like we do this new thing now that, like, one of our guys came in with a breakfast sandwich, and I was like, "Oh, you didn't get me one of those?" And he's like, "All right, next week I'll bring you one." And I'm like, "Oh man, those sandwiches are really good." And now every Friday we have breakfast sandwich Fridays. So he goes to the store. We have an Excel spreadsheet. I send it to him, and literally he buys like 30 sandwiches every Friday, and we all sit down and just, talk, and everybody's laughing and making fun of each other, and all just sitting in the room before we get on our day.
That's the Quincy way. It's
in
the South. That's South Boston. For anybody who doesn't know that, that's they're wired a little differently in that area, for sure. No doubt about that.
Right.
Anthony, tell us, just give us a brief little history. I know you said, if you don't mind, tell us a little bit about some of the barriers you had when you grew up a little bit, and then we'll do a little objection handling, if you don't mind. Just give us a 5-minute thumbnail about some of the things you had to go through when you were growing up. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I won't get extremely descriptive. I'll get a little overview. So growing up, I had a mom and dad, but my dad lived here and he didn't really take care of me. So my mother took care of me for a little part of my life, and she kind of got into drugs and alcohol and stuff like that. And like at certain times I used to be like left outside, like I didn't have a place to stay. So I literally stayed at my friend's house so often that his mother called me child support. She's like, I'm gonna have to ask your mother for some child support. Like, where is your mom? Right. So, after being like abandoned by my mom and dad, my grandmother, with the biggest heart in the world, I have her tattooed on my arm, kind of like took me into her wing and started to take care of me. So, I'm really thankful, to give the opportunity to be able to have the rest of the childhood from her.
Is she around today still? Is she still around?
Yeah, she is. She's 76 now.
Well, I guarantee that every day she's here on this earth, that she smiles thinking about how pleased she is with the impact that you're making on other people. And you guys still talk at all? You guys ever still talk to her?
Every single day she calls me at like 11 o'clock. I'm like, "Grandma, I'm busy right now. Can I call you later?" Right. Every day. Call
That's
me.
so cool. That's so cool. I mean, I definitely know that. I know I'm proud of you too, buddy. It's seriously, I
Thank
saw
you.
something great when I first met you back there in 2021. I definitely am pleased to see your progress is there. So Anthony, let's go over a little bit about the training part of it, if you don't mind. Just have a little fun with this.
Yeah.
Gives people some fun with it. That's why I was impressed with the most. I'm like, man, this guy, he's on point. He knows the stuff. So if I were to say, I'm going to throw a few things at you, Anthony,
Yeah.
and see what you think here. I'm going to give you an audit. This is going to be I wasn't even planning on this, so it could go. I might have to edit this part out. It just might be a flop. We don't know, so we'll see how it
Yeah.
goes. But if I said,
All right.
"Hey, Anthony, I this is really good," so you start with what should we do, and I'll throw some objections at you to see how you can do with this. Okay?
All right.
So you start with the what should we do.
What should we do?
Well, Anthony, this looks really good, but I'm just going to need some time to think about it.
All right, Joe. Well, take all the time you need. I'll be right here. What should we do?
So you expect me to buy this today?
I expect you to do what's best for you and your family, Joe. That's not really a decision I can make for you, but what should we do?
Is this competitive, Anthony? If I shop around, would I find this to be competitive?
Well, Joe, let me ask you a question.
What?
What if I said I shop the entire market and I know what every single other person offers as an option, and I put together 6 different options customized for you and your family, and this top option here is completely customized. So this top option wouldn't be competitive, but the rest of them would be competitive on what the market offers. What should we do?
Well, I mean, can you email it to me and I'll call you back tomorrow and see? I just need more. I just need to process this. My bandwidth isn't strong enough to handle all this stuff. Can I take a couple days? Give me a day. Today's Friday. I'll call you back Monday first thing. What do you think of that?
What if I had said I had something better than email, Joe?
What's that?
I can show you everything right now, and I can go over everything right now with you.
Okay.
What should
You
we
do that for me? You do that for me?
Of course I would.
Well, do you guys take American Express? Because I'm not sure if I want. I can't afford the whole thing.
That's a premium card, Joe. If I said I did, what would happen then?
We get it done.
So what should we do?
Let's get this thing done. All right, give him a round of applause. He killed it. I knew you would do a great job. Great job, Anthony. Well, I tell you what, they always say a great podcast starts on time. And they say, I'm sorry, a good one starts on time and a great one ends on time. And I think we're going to bring this one in on time. Anthony, anything else you want to tell people to give them some encouragement before you leave in your special Anthony Mound way?
Stay positive no matter what it is. There's always someone who's having a harder time than you. Just stay positive always.
Well, thank you so much, Anthony, for taking your time and spending it with us and helping other service professionals out there. Possibly this, I guarantee somebody's going to listen to this and they're going to say, yeah, that's what I got to start doing. And even it sounds like it can't have an impact, but I'm surprised every day I'm on this podcast, how many people come back to me and say, yeah, you really changed my life with just that one podcast. And I'm like, wow. So I think you're going to change some lives with this one, Anthony. Thank you so much for taking your time.
I sure hope so. Thank you for having me, Joe.
Thanks. My pleasure. Have a great one, Anthony.
You too. Bye.
Stop.